Hello, and that is right. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. UGREEN are continuing its mad expansion into the world of network attached storage with even more hardware. That's right, like a kid in the early noughties playing The Sims with the cheat codes on for infinite money. I've got to say, this brand is going Billy bonkers in terms of hardware rollout, and in the same time period where other turnkey NAS solutions and brands like Synology and QNAP are generally rolling out refreshes of their product portfolio every 2 to 3 years, their solutions that have barely been in the market for 18 months are now starting to see refreshes over in China. Now, it's an important distinction, and we will go through the hardware later on. Today we are talking about the DXP4800S and a little bit more, I would argue, about the DXP4800 Pro. Now, at a glance, it would look like these are refreshes of the DXP4800 and DXP4800 Plus. However, when you look at websites over in the East, I believe in China and Japan as well, you look at the listings and they are still listing both products side by side. And generally, when a brand refreshes a product series, again, your Synology, your QNAP, your whatever, they generally remove the product from their official listings as the refresh comes into effect. For those new to the industry, a refresh is kind of a new product, but not. It is when a product family sees integrations and improvements in line with changes and upgrades from hardware manufacturers like the CPU and mobile manufacturers as they upgrade their work processes, and Intel themselves refresh product families quite frequently. So often a NAS brand, like a lot of hardware manufacturers out there, will refresh their product lineup in line with these newer components as the original manufacturers stop producing the original components inside. But again, the hardware inside this device, this rolls out the Intel i5 from the 12th generation Alder Lake, and the non-Plus series device of the previous family rolled out with the N100. These are still readily available components at the point of manufacture. And although Intel has moved on into the Twin Lake series and more, it's kind of weird to see UGREEN approaching a newer series of devices. But before we make our way onto the laptop and go through the specs in detail, it's worth highlighting one, we have seen no solid indications that these are going to be leaving East anytime soon. Right now they are listed in those Eastern regions, but right now, Europe, the US, there's still absolutely nothing. And I think if these are going to make it over, you're not going to see these until well into Q1 2026. And we're still waiting to see if these are refreshes and replacements for the existing series or not. So don't go holding out and not backing up your data and not having a storage solution in place based on the information today. There's just not enough to go on there. But let's head over to the laptop and go through everything we know. First up, credit where it's due, ithome.com were the first to kind of find out about this. This was live even before the official product pages. I didn't find out this information from UGREEN, I didn't find it out from anywhere else. These guys landed it first, and they landed it a wee while ago, about a week or so. And in that time, obviously, the official pages have gone up. So again, credit to it.home there. I will link to that in the description. But as a quick reminder, the original DXP4800, the value series, or the entry-level value series Intel proposition arrived with that Intel 100 CPU. And the Plus series device arrived with that Intel Pentium Gold. A very unusual choice when you look at the rest of the product family. The Intel Pentium, I've only ever seen that CPU used by QNAP into the NAS devices, and I remember, again, a year and a half ago when we were first talking about UGREEN in the NAS world during their Kickstarter, I was very surprised by this CPU choice. And particularly when you compare it against other 4-bays in the market right now from other turnkey NAS competitors, very few of them were using that processor at this price point. And it's one of the reasons why it's been so popular, and we're regularly, when it's on sale at a comparable price point to your Synologies, your QNAPs, your TerraMasters, your Acer stores, whatever, it was always an attractive proposition. But things move forward, and Intel themselves have upgraded that processor, at least in their product run, in line with the new Twin Lake processors and more. So the DXP4800, again, has almost identical ports and connections and everything in the S series as it does to the previous non-S version, but now it moves towards the Intel N150 processor, a CPU we talked about a lot this year. It is the progressive upgrade by Intel from the Alder Lake into the Twin Lake series. Pretty much the same thing, very, very small improvements, incremental in fact, and again, not an unusual refresh from Intel. We will talk about it a little bit more in the comparison pages. Now, the DXP4800 Pro is actually more of an upgrade. This moves away from the Pentium into an i3. Now, I thought they would play it safe and just stick in the N355. Technically an 8-core i3 processor that a number of different brands, again, TerraMaster, QNAP, and a number of different M.2 NVMe DIY NAS solutions are currently using at the moment. And it is Twin Lake, but they didn't go down that road. And presumably because of the lane distribution, arriving with 20 lanes in the Pentium Twin Lake, and now the Intel i3 Pentium Alder Lake, and now into the i3 Twin Lake, they needed that distribution to support their range of ports and connections here. The ports and connections haven't changed, bar one, but for the most part, I can get why they went for that CPU, but there has been a price bump as well. More on that in a moment. But when we look at the Intel Twin Lake CPU, we've talked about this in other videos, but I do think it's worth refreshing it here. Really, the only bump from Intel on that CPU is just a small frequency upgrade in both traditional CPU frequency and graphical frequency. Same number of cores, same TDP, same number of lanes. It's a newer generation CPU, again launched early 2025. We've seen a bunch of brands take advantage of this CPU, but apart from that, is largely the same. Even the system rolling out from UGREEN has got exactly the same RAM. And in terms of graphical frequency, I should say, that has been upgraded from 750 megahertz into a standard gigahertz there. So a small bump, but largely the same. Now, when we talk about the new CPU, that i3 that's inside the Pro series box there is a notable scale up there compared to that Intel Pentium. If we go into the Intel pages there, we can see the improvements as follows. We're seeing improvements there with more cores to play with, from 5 into 6, 2 power cores and 4 efficiency cores rather than 1 over 4. More threads overall to play with there, and a slight bump again in traditional frequency and the graphical frequency there. They're a same TDP, but apart from that, it isn't quite as new as that of the Intel N150, but it is still an increase, with an increase towards a higher memory frequency and total memory as well. As you can see from that improvement, it is actually a little bit more of a bump than we saw between the N100 and the N150 in terms of what the CPU and executional units can do. And if you're going to run some of that AI stuff as well, I'm sure you'll enjoy some of that, at least on the photo level. We're not talking NPU, of course. Now, the official pages, if we go into the comparison pages, and this is what I mentioned earlier on, by the way, how this, normally I would call this a refresh within a NAS family, but because they're still listing the standard and the plus next to the S and the Pro, it makes me wonder if all 4 lines are designed to run at the same time, at least until the Alder Lake CPUs start running out. But as you can see, when we go to the value class, and I left in the ARM powered unit just for a base comparison, we can see that a lot of those changes are reflected. There is the inclusion of a higher frequency RAM, but at the same time, that's really it. There's no increase in the lanes, there's no increase in the speed. It's still running a Gen 3 ×1 on each of those slots, and that's really it. There's no 10G upgrade. This is what I mean about it feeling like a refresh in all but deployment. Now, in the case of the Plus versus the Pro, as mentioned, we've seen those reflected increases there on the CPU, and we're seeing the increases there in the memory. But the other increase is to do with the SD card slot, upgrading from SD3 to SD4. And I know not a lot of users use the SD card slot, but I know a lot of photo video editors that bought the UGREEN NAS when Synology was kind of going a bit mental on that compatibility stuff. They'll be quite pleased to see that. SD card 3 has a read speed of around 100 megabytes over 50 megabytes write, and in SD4 that goes up to about 300 megabytes read and 150 megabytes write, which is going to just lead in quicker transfers and quicker offloading of jobs on the go. Now, pricing is pretty confusing, notwithstanding the currency conversions, but also because we are comparing the DXP standard class 4800 and the Plus series, which have been in the market for a year or so and have seen numerous promotions and numerous sales being compared against new running units. So this is the 4800, currently 1700 yuan, and the S series box is priced at 2339 yuan, which comes in, if we look at the currencies there, at $328. Again, if and when it lands in the US, and of course we could factor in Europe. I'm so sorry, Australia. I don't know why they're not selling to you in Australia. This is just for you. I'm not apologising for UGREEN, but I still have got no idea why they're not selling in Oz. It blows my frigging mind. But when it comes to the Plus versus the Pro, when we look at that price differential, is 2,429 for the Plus series, and the Pro is 3,000 yuan, and that comes in at the end there at $423. So it's still pretty affordable. Again, you've got to factor in your tax. I'll be interested to see what it's priced at if and when it comes to the US and Europe, but it still means that although it is a bit of a price bump, it wouldn't surprise me if when this Pro Series box launches that they try to hit pretty much the same price, maybe 5% on top, if and when it lands in Q1 2026. All hypothetical, TBC, etc. Now, as mentioned, I don't think the information in today's video should be used in any shape or form to stop you getting the right data storage solution for yourself right now. Doing so, if you just think, oh, this thing might come out in 6 months, I'm not going to buy the currently available units. A quick reality check. Number one, UGREEN have got a hell of a history putting the Plus Series box on promo. And with Black Friday around the corner, there is no scenario where I don't think they're not going to put it on offer. Almost certainly, the Plus Series will see some 10 or 20% drop during Black Friday. Also, even if there wasn't a promo right now, the increases that are being promised in that Pro Series box, notwithstanding that we might not even launch for 3 to 6 months, and time means money for some of us, but on top of that, the increases aren't going to be felt by everyone. Most users that look at the UGREEN DXP4800 Plus, it's going to be enough at that price. So don't hold out for this device. This video is about letting you know that this seems to be in the eco and almost certainly landing at some point in 2026. Bottom line, it's still going to be the same hardware and ports and connectivity. There's one 10G port there on that Plus, and there's one 10G port there on that Pro Series box. And as for the N100 versus N150, the difference is so small that I barely can recommend it as any kind of upgrade, while you can still get hold of the other one with a decent little promo price. How this gets reflected across the 6 and 8 bays, who knows? But this has been the DXP4800S and the DXP4800 Pro. Let me know what you guys think. Have you already bought a UGREEN and think, oh, shucks, I missed out? Or are you thinking, do you know what? These increases mean sod all to me, and I'm happy as Larry as it is. Thank you so much for watching. Do talk to me in the comments. It's always nice to chat. And of course, if you want to get hold of anything discussed in today's video, whether it be a UGREEN NAS or whatever, and you want to support what we do, the easiest way to do it is to use the links in the description. Remember, doing so results in a small commission, which comes to NAS Compares. Me and Eddie, it's just us doing this, and it allows us to keep doing what we do, but you to passively support creators at no additional cost to yourself. So come on, it's way easier than a sodding subscription. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.